wrong then, but good job. Are you smart? How long does it take you to register and vote? 2 minutes. Well, that's pretty quick then, isn't it? Yeah. Well, good job then, Tina. Sway, are you smart? How do you change something in your community? Your mama gonna do it? Yes. Got you. Good job, Sway. Zan, are you smart? Yes. Who picks the president? Batman. Batman? He picks him? Oh, okay, good job. Listen, your vote is so powerful that it can change the direction of the entire nation. Go to whenweallvote.org to get started. Jabria, are you smart?
So that was a really cute video about why you should vote. Let me continue to share. And this was just something that Michelle Obama posted. It's never too early to understand the power of your vote. And so just something really cute to get you started. And now I would like to welcome Gina Martinez, who is the Registrar of Voters for Monterey County Elections Office. Is Gina on the call?
I'm here. Thank you.
Oh, hi Gina, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So just very quickly, she's a lifelong resident of Monterey County and has been in elections for 15 years. And you can read a little bit about her bio here. She has a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of California, Davis, and a Master of Arts from the University of Washington in Seattle. You have presented at conferences on such topics as polling place accessibility policies and practices and youth empowerment and participation. So we are very, very lucky and excited to have her here and speak to you all. So I am going to pass it over. Thank you so much for joining us, Gina.
Thank you for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here. I'm wondering, do I have the control or would I just let you know to advance the slides?
Yes, I can advance them.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gina Martinez, Registrar of Voters, which means I'm the director of the office that conducts elections for the County of Monterey. In this presentation, I'm going to provide an overview of what we do in elections, and I'll end with some ways that you can get involved. Along the way, I'm going to ask for participation. It's going to be Zoom participation, and I can't wait until we're able to do a presentation like this again in person, but we're going to make sure that we all participate along the way. So if you could advance the slide, and this one's going to require some clicking. So the first thing we're going to do is play a little bit of a word association game. And just on a piece of paper that's near you, I'm going to ask you to write what comes to mind when the word flashes on the screen. So if you could advance the slide, leader. So on a piece of paper, not in the chat, later on, I'm going to have you write it in the chat. But right now, just where we are in time, what comes to mind when you see the word leader? And if you'll advance the slide, citizen. What comes to mind when you hear the word citizen? And then advance once more, elections. I say elections, and what pops in your head? We're going to ask that you write that down on a piece of paper, and later on I'm going to ask you to put it in the chat, but right now just on a piece of paper. And then one final advancement for this slide, voter. If I say voter or you hear voter in the news, what comes to mind? Okay, it's just a quick word association. When you hear this word, what happens? What pops up? Okay, we're going to go ahead and advance the slide. And we're already going to put this in practice. So elections, I asked you elections. Can you put in the chat what came to mind with elections? What did you write down? Let's see, do we have anybody? Oh, we have someone voting, perfect. Voting, vote, voting, wonderful. Elections we're associating with voting. So we're definitely on that participatory side, the voter side, kind of the mindset of I can vote, correct? Good, good. Anybody else? Do we have anything other than vote or voting? Candidates. Yes, there are candidates definitely involved in elections. And that gets into the political realm of things, whether you're running for office, you're running a campaign, candidates. Ooh, power. There you go. Anything else? These are great words. Selection, absolutely, absolutely. So right now, where you are in life and in this program, are you interested and likely to participate in elections? And what do you know about elections? And someone chimed in with democracy, and that's absolutely correct. Elections are the cornerstone of the democracy that we live in, right? And for that democracy to be strong, we need participation from everyone, from all of our citizens. Democracy only works if the people work. And so it's a big responsibility, not just for the elections office, but for everyone involved. That includes our voters, that includes our volunteers, that includes our candidates. And yes, voting for the leaders we want. It's important to have our voices heard and express the folks that we want to advance and lead our country or lead our county or lead our schools, that we express that in an election. What do you know about elections though? And can you think about that? I'm going to tell you a little bit. So I want you to kind of hold on to, what do you know about elections? We know that people vote. We know that people run for office, but what else is there? How does it happen? I know lately in the news, we have a pretty close candidate or contest in Monterey County for supervisor District 2. And now suddenly people are looking at this canvass period after their election and they're wondering, well, what's happening? Why are you still counting ballots after the election? This is why? And it's because this is election administration. And so it's such an incredible opportunity. Every time we get to go out and speak about it, we want our folks to understand there is so much to the election process. We want to make sure that you folks are aware of what's happening. Oh, can you advance the slide, please? So in our office, this is our organizational structure. I'm the registrar. There's an assistant registrar, Jessica Cedillo. There's a management analyst, senior departmental information systems coordinator. This is a person who manages the precincts, the boundaries, puts the voters in the correct area so they get the correct ballot. And they also manage our election cybersecurity. We have a business technology analyst who handles voting systems and services. This is how we get accessible ballots to individuals, and how we prepare a voting system so they can tabulate ballots accurately. We have 5 program managers covering the program areas. They're Mary Helen, Greta, Mary, Hennessis, and we currently have an opening for a bilingual outreach services program manager. And we have 2 election services specialists. These are Jose and Crystal. And it's really important to me whenever I get the chance to go out and present to say that these are the individuals who are doing the work. These are the names of the people who do the work in elections. It's not this faceless entity. It's not this government entity. These are real people every day who come into the office and make sure that the election is carried out to the best of our ability following law. Next slide. During an election, we grow. We serve over 208,000 registered voters in the county of Monterey. This is a very large county. We really couldn't do it on our own. So we add temporary employees to help us carry out the duties that we are sworn to carry out. We add volunteers to reach out to the community to serve voters at polling places. Now, there are 2 things I want you to get from these last 2 slides. One, these are real people doing hard work. We work very hard every day. So when you see kind of things in the media where they're saying, oh my goodness, something is happening, what's happening? Well, there's people doing the work. Let's go ask the people that are doing the work. So always think to yourself, what is happening? What really is happening? And understand that it's not just this faceless entity, they're real people carrying out the work. Second, from the student perspective or the young legislator perspective, these temporary employee positions and those 900 volunteer positions, those are opportunities for you. Those are opportunities for you to gain understanding in the process. They're opportunities for you to build that resume. There are opportunities for you to kind of fill out the other side of this process. And I encourage each of you to apply, not just in Monterey County, but whatever county you're from. We always need volunteers. We always need temporary employees. It's a great opportunity to see the process firsthand and make it happen firsthand. Next slide. So what do we do when there's no election? If you could advance, please. We do a lot. We are here year round. Some people question that. We carry out duties all year round. Outreach and education is ongoing. We have to be at every community event that we can be at. We have to be at every speaking engagement. We need to be at schools so that we can educate people at their level, whether it's kindergarten, middle school, high school. Do I have 2 minutes left, Louise? Okay, good. Okay, so we're going to zoom on through this. So we do have outreach and education, and we have to do it. We have to carry it out. We have polling place accessibility. We're out there measuring slopes, making sure our polling places are technically accessible. We process petitions so that those measures can get on the ballot. We do all of these things when there's not an election. And if you advance once more, so, and then you add the election, we're still doing that outer level, and we're carrying out all the duties that you see here to make sure that that election can happen. Next slide. Already, this is our cycle of elections. We are scheduled for presidentials and gubernatorials. We have a primary and a general every even year. And then in the odd years sometimes, and even in the even years, a special election will be called, and we'll conduct that as well. Next slide. So how do we vote in Monterey County? Well, we vote on paper. Every active voter gets a ballot in the mail, and we have in-person voting opportunities. Next slide. What are your election security concerns? Let's advance once more. So we work with Homeland Security. The threat of an overarching kind of takedown of elections is minimal. There's really too much diversity in elections, even within a state and across the country, for one fell swoop to come in and overthrow an election. Next slide. But what there's social media, right? There's communication out there, narratives that are being put out there to kind of dissuade people from participating or to encourage them to act in a way that they normally wouldn't act otherwise. Next slide. So election security, oh, there we go, it's time. So I apologize, I thought I had in half an hour. Alrighty, so.
No, so we'll move on to Q&A. I think some of these, if they have some of the questions
okay,
that weren't answered, we can save them for now, I guess.
If you want to advance a bit, we can get to, are you represented? And then we can talk, keep advancing. Keep advancing. So there you see register and vote. No, keep advancing. Okay, and then just a bit more until we get to the bottom point, which is be skeptical, thoughtful, and analytical. Perfect. So these are the ways that you can get involved. And I encourage you, please, to register if you're not yet registered, to check your status, help someone register, and to get involved. And there we go. Thank you. So I will take your questions.
So please raise your hand if you have any questions. I know that somebody had asked during our first session why there was such low turnout. Do you have any ideas on that?
I think in terms of turnout, election officials speculate. We say, well, really turnout is driven by contests and candidates kind of engage and pull the turnout. Our biggest turnout in a gubernatorial primary is typically the governor contest. And we just had the governor recall in September. And so naturally, some individuals who would only show up for governor didn't show up at all. Oops, and there goes my camera, because they just voted on that. I'm going to stop video just so that it doesn't do that. But so we lost some of those folks who only would show up for governor because they just voted for governor. But then you look at the other contests, and this Monterey County saw something that we've seen before, and I think other counties saw it, where that A card, where the governor contest sits. We base our turnout on the A card. We saw a greater turnout on the B card with our congressional office and US Senate office than we saw on the A card. So more people turned in B cards than A cards. And so what we saw was really the draw for folks who did show up was Congress, but we had redistricting. So now what these individuals saw were new candidates, people they've never encountered before. So there was a lack of familiarity with the people on the ballot. And so where we had the familiar candidates, we saw higher turnout. Where we had the less familiar candidates, we saw lower turnout.
Thank you.
Other
That's
questions?
very interesting. Anybody want to raise their hand? Any questions?
Yeah, and if, I mean, maybe if they have questions and they write them later to us, if they have questions that we can send to her, and then have her answer them, and
We have
we
a
can answer
question
them
from
on-
Angela.
Hey, I had a question. Thanks so much for being guest speaker. It's nice to hear about local elections and just getting more people to turn out, because it's really important. I heard somewhere that wherever you're living, at a certain point, local elections sometimes dictate how you will be, how you'll be more situated where you will live. Basically, sometimes local elections are more important than, I guess, more powerful elections. I don't like presidential or things like that. What do you think about that?
So I think that local elections have an immediate and direct impact on the people that these local elected officials serve. Look at our school districts. They make decisions and they're enacted immediately. How much money is going to be spent, what teachers are going to be hired, who's going to be hired permanently and receive tenure. This will impact the students' experience in that school for better or for worse. And the same thing with our city council members and our mayors and our board of supervisors. They're making direct and immediate decisions that will impact our quality of life, access to resources. So in many ways, those local contests, in terms of impact, we're going to see that to a greater extent and sooner than we would with a presidential contest and candidate. So you're absolutely correct. Yeah. Anything else? All righty. Well, I thank you all so much for your time. And next time, I'm going to ask for half an hour. Alrighty, folks, and I do welcome all of you. Anybody on this call, please come and visit us at the Monterey County Elections Office. I understand some of you are from other counties. Your local election official is there and would receive you with open arms as well. So please reach out. Don't be a stranger. Don't be shy. We're here for you. We want to talk to you and we want to work with you. Alrighty.
Thank you so much, Gina.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. All right, and now I would like to welcome a 2019 Young Legislator Program participant, Ryan Gonzalez, who is going to be running for Fireball City Council. So we wanted to invite him back and have him share, what his experience was like and why he decided to run for City Council. We're really excited to have him back. Ryan, I will give you the floor.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Jennifer. Hello, everybody. My name is Ryan Gonzalez. I reside in Fireball. I've been here all my life. So back in 2019, I had the honor of being part of Ana Caballero's first Young Legislators program. And this experience took place in Atwater. This was back when we were in normal times and we were in person and can hug people. I do miss that still, but slowly but surely we'll be coming back to normal. But during that 3 weekends, we had numerous speakers and my mind was just running. I was like, okay, what can I do? Or what's the next steps? So in 2020, I graduated Fireball High School as valedictorian, and I also graduated from West Hills Coalinga with my associate's degree. I'm now attending Fresno State, majoring in communications, and will hopefully be graduating early next year. So back in 2019, I had the honor and pleasure of meeting Jewel Hurtado, who I believe you guys heard from a couple weeks ago. And this woman is like, I think my angel sent from heaven. Her spirit, her liveliness, and just her passion to serve, I think really resonated with me and it struck me. And I knew since I was in middle school, high school, I want to run for city council, or I want to run for school board. And, I think one of the big important things that I experienced just in that time of just voicing that was, the naysayer saying, well, you're too young. What do you know at 18? What are you going to do? And I think for me, the main reason why I wanted to run for city council this year is just to bring a new perspective. I think, when you have your elected officials that have been in office for 10, 20, 30 plus years, you start to get accustomed to them. And you kind of, for me, it was, I wanted to see change. I wanted to see the representation. I wanted to see myself or someone else in that position. Because for me, when you do outreach, it's a 40, 50-year-old woman is not going to have the same outreach as someone that is 19, 20, in the mid 20s. So for me, it was, it's an exciting process. I'm really nervous, but I'm really excited, and I'm given the opportunity to serve. I can't wait. And I have open to any questions you guys may have. I know most of you are in the same age range as me, so I want to be a resource to you guys. If you guys have any questions, I am more than happy to answer.
Thank you, Ryan. Does anybody have any questions? I'm very excited for you. And we're all supporting you, and you'll do great. Running for office is, can be very daunting. So the fact that you took it on is just amazing. So thank you so much for stepping up, because, that's hard to do. So does anybody have any questions about anything? Don't be shy.
Maria, Zarate has a question.
Hi, my question to you is, how did you resist it through the ageism that you were encountering because of how well prepared you were and you knew what you wanted to do with your life? How did you manage to encounter and resist that?
Okay, you kind of broke up, but I think I kind of got what you said. So, as for past history with family running for office, it really hasn't been like within my family. My grandmother ran for school board back in 1998. So a long time ago. And I just, for me, it was the leading of my mother. My mother is very progressive, always wants to, what's right for everyone. She works at a neighboring school district in Mendota, California. And, she was the woman that was like, you got to do it. If you're going to do it, what are you waiting for? Kind of a thing. Like, now's your time to run. And, she had her concerns too. Like, are you going to finish school, or how are you going to do it? But I think what really helped was just, being so involved in like student leadership and student government in high school, and then transitioning that into city and local government. I think it has similar but also different retrospect in the sense of what they do. But for me, it was just, I know what I want to see in our city, and that's simply representation. And I think it's really important that, our young millennials take action, whether that's sitting in a city council meeting, sitting in a school board meeting, and just take notes, because those people that are in power are the ones that are going to be impacting you for the next 4 years while they're in office making decisions. And, knowing that their door's open if you have questions. And I think that's one thing that I had to do. And it has really helped me. It's awakened me to know, the things that are going on. And, if you don't put yourself out there, you kind of are closed off at your doorstep. So, I thank you for your question. And if you have anything else, I'm more than happy to answer.
So I think, Ryan, the second part of that is, how are you dealing with getting asked like, oh, well, you're so young, like what experience do you have, that kind of thing, like the age thing? How are you dealing with that?
So I haven't really publicly stated that I'm running yet, but I have told people in the community that I'm running, and it has been challenging. I think when you have that naysayer or the people that are questioning your integrity and your leadership, I think it puts you into the perspective of knowing, like, can I do it? And you start to question yourself. And I think one of the hardest thing is dealing with self-doubt, knowing if you're enough. And for me, it was just explaining to them, like, it's you giving me the opportunity to show you what I can do and what I want to do. And I think leading in that footstep and being that person that has open communication and is available, I think is really important.
Thank you. And just one more quick question from Rose.
Hi, so I just had a quick question. So I know we've heard a lot about kind of getting involved at like that young age, just like how you are and how you said you were inspired by Jewel, and you know she did that as well. But do you think it would be a setback, say, like if we go to a 4-year and then go to graduate school afterwards and we're away from our community? Do you think that would be a setback in the long run?
You know, I think that's a really good question. And I'm very fortunate to have done my undergraduate or my first 2 years of college in Fireball. So I got to work really close in hand with our community. And I'm so thankful that California has some amazing state colleges, some that are very close to home. And attending Fresno State, it's so close to home. I still live at home in Fireball and I commute every day. So it allows me still the opportunity to still engage and go out to community events. And that's one thing that's super important to me, is being accessible and engaged in community events, whether that's stuff that's happening at our VFW hall or going and talking to our senior citizens and getting them informed with the elections. I think that's been one of my biggest motivations, is because there's limited access for our older population in our town. So it's just being able to still remain close to home has been really important to me. And that is one of the main reasons why I wanted to run, because I knew if I was anywhere else, nowhere near, I couldn't take on the duty to run for city council, because it is very time consuming. It is very labor intensive. So that was a big thing to me, is I needed to stay local.
Thank you so much, Ryan. We're so excited to see you, and hopefully next year you'll come back as an elected official and get to talk to all of our new cohort. And so thank you so much.
Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we're going to get into the fun part. Well, another fun part, because our speakers were also very fun. We are going to get into the mock hearing. And so here to talk to you a little bit is Michelle Ginonez. She's a policy analyst for Senator Caballero, and she actually she oversees both of the bills that you will all be discussing. So I'm gonna kick it over to her so she can introduce herself very quickly, and then we can go over the assignments.
Thank you, Jennifer. Hello, everybody. My name is Michelle Ginonez. I am Senator Caballero's policy analyst. I started with the senator when she was elected in 2016 as her scheduler. I moved into legislative aid a couple years later, and this year I moved into this new position. I staff her on several issue areas, one of which is judiciary. I also staff her on public safety, women's rights, and any environmental issues, so climate change related, policy issues, water, and also like broadband issues too. So it's like a wide variety of policy areas that I have the pleasure of working on. The two bills that you guys have set for the mock hearing, I staff those for the senator. So my position in the office is basically facilitating the bills through the legislative process, moving them through committees, negotiating amendments and changes, trying to secure the votes that are necessary to get the bill passed, all while maintaining the senator's intent with the legislation. These two, I'd say, are pretty controversial for very different reasons. And I'm really excited to listen to the mock hearing today. And we'll see how it compared to, the policy committees that happened in real life just last week. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Michelle. And Michelle's amazing. And all of us wear many hats, and she wears a lot of policy hats. So we are so happy to have her here today. So Vanessa, did you want to take over for the mock hearing?
Sure. So now we're going to begin with team number 1, which is SB 1142, Access and Support for Abortion Services. So as you know, today is a day where this is, very, with the overturning of Roe versus Wade, it's, a heavy day, and this is directly impacted with this bill. So it's important for us to kind of hear, what we think as, you're young, the next, leaders, to kind of see how you interpreted this bill. And again, I sent over the guidelines. So we're going to be following the guidelines, which has your name on there. And just as an FYI for, just wanted to confirm, do we have the Chair Rose Valdez today?
It's Velasquez, but yeah, here.
Oh, Velasquez, sorry about that.
It's okay.
Okay, so we have, okay, great. So then I know you'll play an important role for this, as you'll have, many points on here. And then the secretary, when you take roll call, if the person is not there, just keep in mind that somebody might be absent. So I think everybody's ready, and we'll go ahead and get started with team number 1. So we'll go through the mock hearing guidelines. Hopefully everybody has this in front of them. If not, was able to prepare beforehand. If you run across any mic issues, please just send something in the chat, whether it would be your statement or let us know that you're having mic issues. That way everything can run smoothly. And make sure you have your cameras on unless you have, you let us know that you can't have it on. So everybody, good luck, and we'll go ahead and I'll pass it on to you, Senator Velasquez.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Senate Health Committee hearing. It looks like we have a quorum present, so Secretary, please do the roll call.
Yes. Senator Chacon. It looks like Senator Chacon is absent. And then Senator DeAnda.
Present.
Senator Medina.
Here.
Senator Mora. Looks like Senator Mora is absent. Senator Rodriguez. Looks like Senator Rodriguez is absent. Senator Solorio. Looks like Senator Solorio is absent. Senator Velasquez.
Present. All right, so I believe that is our roll call. So today we have Senator Zarate Pacheco presenting SB 1142. Our committee allows 2 people to provide testimony in support and 2 people in opposition. After testimony, members of the public can identify themselves by saying their name and what position they have on the bill. Senator Zarate Pacheco, you may start your presentation.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. I am here to present Senate Bill 1142, which would allow access and support for abortion services, which they are already under the Cal Health and Human Services website. They have a web page in which people who are seeking for abortion care can find more information. Today I have with me Ana Velasquez to testify in support of the bill.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. My name is Ana Velasquez, and I am in support of SB 1142. And the reason I am in support of SB 1142 is because we stand as women in solidarity to assert our freedoms, to maintain our autonomy over our bodies. And this bill, if passed, this bill would support also some of the impacts to our most vulnerable populations, such as our young individuals and women of people of color, especially women of color. So we want to make sure that we support SB 1142. Thank you.
All right, so thank you. Is there any members of the public in support of the bill?
Good afternoon, chairs and members. My name is Dana Mena, and I support SB 1142.
All right, so we have no one else in support. Oh, my bad.
Yeah, I
Is there-
do.
Okay.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Sofia Rodriguez, and I support SB 1142.
Thank you. And so now I believe we don't have anyone else in support. Is there anyone here in opposition of the bill?
Sorry, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Good afternoon, chairs and members. I am here in opposition to SB 1142. According to Tannis Sander, lead director's life scientists, life begins from the moment of conception when the sperm fertilizes the egg, because there is the creation of a new, totally distinct, integrated organism or a human being. In other words, the murder of a fetus is considered illegal and unethical. If you continue to increase such sexual education and provide resources to the public, there wouldn't be a need for abortion. Thank you.
All right, anyone else in opposition, please state your name.
Good afternoon, chairs and members. I'm Dana Mena. I'm here to oppose to SB 1142 because due to Roe versus Wade being overturned, it'll cause a lot of immigration from people coming to our state from out of state, causing overpopulation possibly.
Seeing that no one else, oh sorry, at this time, does anybody have any questions from the committee members about testimony or to our author?
Good afternoon, Chair and members. I wanted to state why I am in opposition to SB 1142. Passing this law will not directly solve the issue related to unwanted pregnancies. Therefore, we need to increase proper sex education and better access to contraceptives. Thank you.
All right, seeing that nobody else is in opposition, does anybody have any questions from the committee members?
Do we have Leslie Mora? I think we skipped Leslie Mora as an opposition.
Was Leslie Moore present? I think so.
I think she's absent.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. Let's keep them moving.
So any questions, you guys can raise your hands and then I can acknowledge your question. Actually, I have a question. I'll start it. Do we know where we are going to be getting the funds for this bill in regards to housing and lodging?
I could answer that question. Also, sorry I did not say it in my research. So Access Reproductive Justice has been funding for decades towards abortion care, including other agencies have fundraised independently for growing need to support their patients. The funding has served abortion organizations, providers, staffing needs, and seems to increase their coordination and integration to address patients' needs. Therefore, providing that they are allies for abortion care in abortion law would be holding those individuals accountable for their efforts towards supporting abortion care and increase abortion care connections between patients and providers by having better providers, including that while 26 states are certainly or likely to ban abortions impacting as many as 36 million women and people who may become pregnant, we live California with a 3,000% increase in people traveling into the state for abortion care. That's from 46,000 to 4.1 million people, indicating that abortion services will be in high demand and those individuals entering the state should be informed about an abortion law in California as they will be receiving a procedure here to know that they aren't doing any illegal procedures. Therefore, we should be held accountable with all of this funding that is going towards abortion care.
All right, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? All right. If members have no further questions, then Senator Zarate Pacheco, you may close your presentation.
Thank you. I respectfully ask you to vote. I am your A vote because this bill will tremendously support women and individuals seeking for abortion access and services, and will provide equitable resources through our state for people to seek for abortion care, knowing that there is a law that will hold them accountable for their procedure.
All right. Is there a motion for the bill? Any committee members would like to make a motion for the bill?
I move the bill.
All
I
right.
second.
Ariana Medina as a first motion, and then Melissa the Anda as our second. Secretary, please roll call.
Yes. Senator Chacon. I think Senator Chacon is absent. Senator DeAnda.
Aye.
Senator Medina.
Aye.
Senator Mora. I think Mora is absent. Senator Rodriguez.
Aye.
Senator Solorio is absent. Okay. Senator Velasquez.
Aye.
So then we have 4 A's and 0 no's because other 3 were absent.
The bill has a 4-0 vote and it passes committee. Thank you, everyone, and that concludes today's hearing, and our meeting today is adjourned at 1:46 p.m.
Great job. That was awesome. So now we're going to have Michelle, if you want to provide any feedback, since you do oversee this bill, and then maybe provide some real life experiences. I know you might have to be going before too, but if you can just join us to provide some feedback.
Yeah, that was really great. It was extremely realistic in terms of the logistical setup. You know, that's exactly how it's done in committee in terms of layout, you know, calling the roll, having the supporters go, then having opposition, opening it for questions. Everything was like really done well to a T. So great research there. I'd also say that you guys kept your dictation really professional. You know, you were in the role of the legislator and it really showed. The only thing I would say in terms of, you know, opportunities is probably the arguments that you're trying to make. When the senator is going to give her statement, that when she's presenting her own bill, she's going to put forth the best argument she can. So she's going to speak to first the existing problem in regards to abortion access. You know, it was spoken on a little bit. There is a ton of places in California where it's still really hard to get access for an abortion, especially rural places like the district she represents. So she's going to dive into that problem and spell it out clear for committee. And then she's going to go into the bill, what it does, and argue for why we need it, right? California is a leader in reproductive freedom. And with the, you know, decision today by the Supreme Court, it's very clear that reproductive rights are, you know, not only threatened, but basically decimated in probably around 26 states in the nation. So California has to beef up its services for people who are coming here seeking, you know, a safe haven, essentially. The opposition was spot on. You guys, you know, gave realistic arguments as far as what I've seen. It is a really, you know, deeply held belief that some people have that abortion is just, you know, wrong. And we should be restricting it at the state level. So I'd say that's pretty close to like what we've seen in committee. We've also heard an argument that I'll share with you from, I think it's the California Catholic Conference. They've argued that bills that support abortion and access to abortion are coercive in themselves, and they coerce like poor, low income, vulnerable mothers to be into getting an abortion. And they say that we should focus on, you know, services for pregnant people, services for new mothers. I think the senator had a really great argument when they made that statement in committee. She said, you know, nothing about SB 1142 is coercive. We are not forcing anybody to get an abortion. The bill is simply about choice. You know, we are simply offering up different avenues for people so that when they make the right choice for them, you know, we have the resources in California for them to choose whatever direction they want to go. And then, of course, for people who are coming here from out of state. So I'd say this was really realistic. You know, in a state like ours, you're not going to have many members who oppose a bill like this. It's basically, you know, in 1142's lifetime, it's been just the Republican Party who has voted no or who has not voted for the bill. It's received full Democratic support. So overall, really great job. It was really enjoyable, you know, hearing your arguments and really seeing you guys get into the perspective of the role that you're playing. You took it really seriously, and it was a pleasure. If you have specific questions too, I have like 10 more minutes as well, however you want to run it, Vanessa.
Yeah, I think this is a good time. If anybody has any questions, again, especially given today's nature, you know, feel free to ask Michelle, as she's been following this issue closely. So please raise your hand if you have any questions.
I see Rose has a question.
Yeah, so I just had a question about the process. So if a committee member does have, say, like something that they want to add to the bill, like an amendment kind of, how does that whole process work?
Yeah, great question. So the bill has to go through committees, and that committee's chairperson has a lot of say over what changes they want in the bill. For example, we went through Assembly Health last week, and Assembly Health, the chairperson, wanted some clarification in terms of the website that we have under the bill. They wanted clarification in terms of, you know, what details would be on the website. So them being the chair, you know, the author really has to work with them and accept the changes that they are offering. Sometimes there's negotiation there if the author doesn't like the changes. You know, most of the time it works out pretty well. And then, you know, we accept those amendments. If you are not a committee chair, and let's say you're just, you know, one of the members on the committee, you could always bring your concern to the chair, but there's no real guarantee that the author is going to need to take that amendment. I've seen, you know, our senator, she's taken meetings with members just one-on-one saying, look, you know, I have this issue with your bill. You know, I'm not in a chair position. Your bill's not going through my committee, but, you know, I want to let you know that this is the perspective from rural California, how your bill is going to affect it. And the author can take that feedback and, you know, if it's up to them really if they're going to make the change, but that's not something a member who's not in a chair position can force them to do.
That was a great question. Anybody else have any questions? Nobody? Well, thank you so much, Michelle. That was really helpful perspective and just kind of walking everybody through what happens, because this is a really important part of the process.
Yeah, thank you all so much, and congratulations on, you know, the group that you're a part of here. I know Anna, you know, Vanessa, Marissa, Jennifer, they've all put a lot of work in, and I hope it's a really great experience for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And next, I would like to introduce our Chief of Staff, Luis Ginonez. And he oversees all the policy issue areas. He is primary on a few, but he's the Chief of Staff, so he's kind of like the head of the legislative office. So I'm going to give him the floor to introduce himself, and then we can start our second hearing.
Cool. Hey, everyone. Is Michelle still on or is she off? Okay, I think she's off, but I just want to say that she, yeah, Michelle's also a bit modest, but she was able to, through her work on behalf of the senator, was able to secure, we just got confirmation of $20 million that will create what will be called the abortion support care fund, and that's essentially public dollars for any in-state expenses that could be borne by anyone in California, by any woman in California seeking reproductive care. So that would mean, you know, paying childcare, gas, lodging, food, what have you, and then we've been part of the work to also create and secure private funding so that anyone living in the 26 states in which, you know, within about 30 to 45 days, any type of reproductive procedure and care will be illegal, will be able to travel to California as well to seek that care. So pretty, it's the first in the nation. Nothing like this has ever been created. So kudos to Michelle and of course to the senator. Hi everyone, Luis Ginonez here. I need to send an updated headshot. But pleasure to meet with all of you and talk with you all. I guess just a bit by me, and pretty much my job is to ensure that the organizational structure and goals of the senator, both in Sacramento and in the district, you know, are achieved. And you know, essentially, I see my role as, you know, I would probably like a advisor, counselor to the senator, part legislative aide. And also someone who also, you know, I see it as my job to also provide support and resources to each staff person to achieve their goals. So this is my fourth stint in a leadership role for an elected official. I've served as a district director to Congresswoman Barbara Lee and chiefs of staff for Assemblywoman Susan Bonilla, Autumn Burke, and now Senator Ana Caballero. In between my public stints, I led eBay's North America U.S. State Government Affairs, and I also led government relations for a tech startup, Zenefits, which is still known to this day as the fastest growing unicorn in Silicon Valley. Unicorn essentially means by the time that you're created and if you're valued over $1 billion and how fast you get there. And then also served time as vice president and director of West Coast operations for Res Publica Group, which is a global public affairs firm headquartered in Chicago. So that's, and I guess, you know, for any of you, I would just say this: when I was in your shoes in high school, when I started my junior year, you know, after creating much gray hair in my parents, because I started out with a 1.5 GPA at that time, somehow or another through my mother's prayers, I was able to graduate high school and somehow or another was able to graduate, get into college and graduate there. So having said all that, I think, you know, hats off to all of you for being admitted into this program, participating in it, and just know that you all are much smarter than I am. So I look forward to seeing what you all can accomplish soon. So with that, let's start the hearing.
Thank you so much. And we would also like to thank the chief, because he's the one that got all the funding for our trip next week. So thank you so much. So I am going to give it back to Vanessa to introduce the committee hearing.
So now we're going to transition into team 2, which is SB 1101, carbon capture, sequestration, and utilization. So again, now for the chair, we're going to have, as an FYI, we're going to have vice chair step in because as mentioned, in case the chair is absent, and this is in real life as well, the vice chair steps in. So I got notification that our chair was going to be absent today, which was a Celine. So just be aware, we're going to have Marissa step in as a chair. So we'll go ahead and pass it on, and I'll give it on to Senator Marissa Avila Hernandez.
I have a question.
Someone has a question?
Yeah, me.
Yeah, go ahead.
On the thing, it says that I'm the witness in support. Yeah, it says I'm the witness in support. So do I still do the other rule?
Repeat your question. You're a witness in support. I see that.
Yeah, and right here in the thing you showed us, it said I was the witness and support and the member on another thing. I'm not sure what it's called, but it said I was the support member of public.
So I see you as a member of the public.
So do I still that role?
In support, yeah. So use the you'll be a member of the public in support. So you just say why they support the bill.
Oh, okay.
And that's your only role that I see here.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then we'll now take it on to Marissa. I'll pass it on to you, Avelar Hernandez.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Senate Health Committee hearing. It looks like we have a quorum present. Secretary, please do the roll call.
Good afternoon. I will not say roll call. Senator Aguilar.
Present.
Senator Gutierrez.
Here.
Senator Lin. Senator Lin. Okay, slowly. Senator is out. Okay. Senator Medina.
Here.
Senator Quintero.
Here.
Senator Saldana.
Present. Today we have Senator Raya presenting SB 1101. Our committee allows 2 people to provide testimony in support and 2 people in opposition. After testimony, members of the public can identify themselves by saying their name and what position they have on the bill. Senator Raya, you may start your presentation.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. I am here to present Senate Bill 10101, which would be part of the state's climate strategy by creating an administrative framework that ensures expediency of approval of carbon capture projects across the state. In layman's terms, it means that that SB 1011 would be a better and more simple implementation for legal policy and regulatory framework, so more carbon removal technology could be implemented more swiftly. The problem that SB 1011 tries to fix is the constant amount of greenhouse gases emissions that has been affecting California over the decades. Carbon capture, utilization, and sequestration, also known as CCSUs, will be a way to incorporate our goals in reducing carbon and becoming carbon neutral by 2045 in order to achieve global climate civilization. Not only will the development of new technologies help California in becoming a model state way of dealing with carbon emission, but it can lay a foundation for what it means to be a state, to be active and involved in reducing carbon emissions and greenhouse gases. This would also mean that more technologies would be built, more occupations, research and development through new ground that hasn't been explored yet, and more progress for projects like this in higher positions for people in occupations such like geologists, chemical engineers, iron workers, carpenters, pipeline workers, and other related construction skills that would be hired work in the CCUS industry. Every year, STEM is pushed in schools all across California, and over the pandemic, the reality of low-paying jobs across California after college has been seen. College students with a STEM-related degree not being able to find a job after 2 decades of pushing STEM in public schools is a tragedy. So the research and development of a project like this could help benefit the newly educated generation, which would benefit later on in the years. There is also major empirical evidence that shows that CCSUs are a necessary and vital component of healthy climate change. Institutions like Stanford University, Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, the University of California, Berkeley, and the University of California at Los Angeles, and many more, can trust that CCSUs can be a great way of expanding climate control. Many more I feel like this development and project would help not only in stopping further aspects of climate change, such as forest fires that we in the Central Valley have seen in tremendous amounts, but it would actually help the budget stop would stabilize those areas that need to be fixed, and would overall help in the upcoming years. We have evidence and motive for this to be passed. Thank you, and I respectfully ask for you to vote on this. Today I have with me Esteban Sotelo and Damien Gutierrez to testify in support of this bill as well.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. I'm here in support of SB 1101 because of its plans to reduce and capture carbon dioxide emissions. I'm supporting this because, as we know, greenhouse gas emissions into the environment have gone up drastically, and using these CCUS will help us reduce carbon dioxide emissions. Not only will it help us reduce carbon dioxide emissions, it will create new jobs for people, create new opportunities, and it will allow us to keep the same amount of industrial businesses open and just have jobs that way still. I'm also in support of SB 1101 because it is taking California a step closer to carbon neutrality and a cleaner environment.
Excuse me. Good afternoon, Chair and members. My name is Damien Gutierrez, and I'm here in support of SB 1101 because the safety of the public and maintenance of the economy hinges on greenhouse gas emissions being reduced or prevented. As it would affect the lives of Californians both during the present and future, it is crucial that our state considers carbon capture, utilization, and sequestration. The program has been recognized by multiple organizations, as it was stated earlier, including the International Energy Agency. The program in question would benefit many workers, such as people with skills or jobs related to carbon-dependent industries who would likely lose opportunities as clean energy grows in popularity. The bill would open up new prospects for them if it was passed. That's why I support it.
Thank you. Is there any members of the public in support of the bill?
Good afternoon, Chair and members. My name is Nicholas Lorenzana. I support SB 1101.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. My name is Ruby Martinez, and I support SB 1101.
We have no one else in support. Anyone here in opposition of the bill?
Hi, yes. Good afternoon, Chair and members. I am here in opposition to the Senate Bill 1101 because this policy does not meet the requirements under California's law carbon fuel standard. Because of the lack of pore space available, this policy is not sustainable. There are no facilities, technologies, or advancements accessible to support climate change. These concerns essentially contradict the opportunity to invest in the development and use of carbon capture, utilization, and sequestration.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. I am here in opposition to SB 1101 because the use of this technology can be costly and is estimated to double the financial cost of modern coal technology.
Anyone else in opposition, please state your name.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. My name is Soledad here in opposition to SB 1101.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marissa Villar here in opposition to SB 1101. Seeing no one else, any questions from committee members? Seeing no questions from committee members, Senator Raya, you may close your presentation.
Just to restate or refocus, we have the evidence and the motive for this to be passed. Everything lines up from our perspective, and we would advise you and thank you for considering this, and we respectfully ask you for your vote.
Is there a motion for this bill?
I move the bill.
I second.
Okay, we have motion by Senator Quintero and second by Senator Medina. Secretary, please do your roll call.
Motion is to pass to the eighth floor. Senator Senator Villar,
Present.
Senator Gutierrez,
Here.
Senator Lin,
So remember, sorry to interrupt, but remember, we're voting. So if you support it, say A. If you oppose it, say nay. So start from the beginning.
oh,
So we'll start with Senator Avelar again.
A.
Senator Villar,
A.
Senator Gutierrez,
Aye.
Senator Lin, slow. Senator Medina,
Aye.
Senator Quintero,
Aye.
Senator Saldana.
Aye.
There are 5 yes and 1 no.
The bill has 4 yes and 2 no's vote. It passes the committee. Thank you, everyone. This concludes today's hearing. Our committee meeting is adjourned at 2:13 p.m.
Good job, everybody. So I'll give a quick feedback and then I can pass it on to you, Chief. So I noticed that for the roll call, there was 5 in support and 1 absent. So when someone's absent, they're basically considered abstained, so we don't count them in the vote. So in this case, we would have said the bill passes 5-0. And I'll pass it on to you, Chief.
Cool. Thanks, Vanessa. I think one, for such a really complex and hard topic, I think you guys did really, really well. Just want to make sure you guys know what the bill is about. So essentially is, imagine, well, I would say, raise your hands real quick. Anyone who has seen an oil refinery or like driven by one? Anybody? Yeah. All right. So, or like a factory, right? Industry site. So there is somewhat recent technology in which you can place, like, imagine, and this is very simplistic, but imagine a box over the smokestacks where it captures all the smoke. And then in turn, so all the smoke then essentially, it's all the particulate matter that becomes essentially carbon dioxide, which helps to fuel global warming, right? And so imagine a box that captures all the fumes from the smokestack, and then you liquefy it. So essentially you turn it into a liquid, and then you inject it into the soil. So where it essentially stays there forever. And so what this bill is trying to do is essentially create the framework in which the state of California can have the power and the authority to approve projects, essentially put these boxes on oil refineries, factories, cement factories, energy plants, pretty much anything that creates or that emits carbon into the atmosphere. And so it's, and part of the technology too, which I'm hoping comes online faster, is called direct air capture. So imagine essentially, and hopefully it's like, so imagine having a solar panel type of device placed, it could be placed on your home, could be placed on a building, that essentially like can identify and take out the carbon out of the air. And then it's connected to a pipe, you liquefy it, and then you store it into the ground. We can literally eliminate our carbon footprint. So I would say, one, you guys did a really good job in terms of articulating it. Two, I wish we would have had that level of support in committee. The bill did pass out of committee. Unfortunately, it was heavily amended because I think there is a portion of the stakeholder community who is afraid of this technology because they believe that this technology further sustains fossil fuel production, essentially pulling oil out of the ground. And so while this was discovered as a method to essentially, yes, pull oil out of the ground, advances have been made by various research centers all around the world. And this is heavily being done in Norway, in England, all throughout Europe. This is truly a way to essentially create a net zero economy. What I mean by that is all the factories, all the power plants, agricultural plants that we all see if we drive by or if our parents work there. You essentially eliminate all your carbon emissions. And so there's a portion of the stakeholder community who doesn't want this. They really just want us to go have California and the world essentially go fully solar. Problem with that is what's going to happen during the hours of the day when there is no sun. It's just nighttime. Where do we get our energy? There's no good answer to that. And right now, the state of California, we don't create enough energy to meet all of our demands. And this summer, I would say, based on projections, yeah, tell your parents and friends, like, be prepared come August and September. We're not going to have enough power. We probably will have rolling blackouts. So this is kind of like the conversation that we're having. And from the senator's perspective is, she sees this as a great way to clean up the cement factories, all the heavy industrial factories, build that bridge, invest more into this technology where you essentially become a fully green economy. The cool thing is, especially for you folks who live in San Bernardino County, and for those of you who live in Merced County, is we're attracting a lot of investment. The center is attracting a lot of investment for folks to use wastewater, recycled water, and all the stuff of carbon capture comes online to essentially turn that into green hydrogen. So completely clean fuel that then totally just emits hydrogen into the air. and that we could use that fuel in every vehicle that you see around you. So, I think so this district where you all live, your homes, you guys are the future. Like that, this area is the future of the economy. And if we don't do it right, then, unfortunately we'll be left behind. But that's a large part of her work this year and a large part of her advocacy. And so if you guys have any questions or anything, always feel free to stay in touch with our office. You guys are interested, more in this, because I think it directly impacts you. Just let us know. I mean, for me, it's, I grew up within two miles of an oil refinery, so I get it. So I think it's also pretty cool that we have this technology to make them pretty much like make them clean up, 100%. But all in all, I think, you guys did well. I mean, that literally is how the hearings go. Sometimes there's some hijinks or shenanigans or, technology sometimes fails, but that's essentially what happens. And there's a lot of work that goes behind it, in terms of leading up to the day of the hearing where, a lot of effort's been made by the Senate and her staff to, essentially do all the research, write all the points, write all the materials to educate other offices, other senators and other staff, and and our engagement with like the chairs of the committee and the committee members, right, to get the votes, right, because this is not a slam dunk. And that takes just a lot of outreach. So with that, no, you guys are great. Good job.
Thank you, Chief, for that. Do you have maybe a few minutes for Q&A in case you have questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Does anybody have any questions for our Chief of Staff, please? No questions? Okay, we have one question from Angelo. Go ahead.
It's just it was really exciting to hear about just like green hydrogen, just like ways to. I mean, I didn't even know that was a thing. I'm searching it up as we speak. But it's just I like ideas where it just man, it just really makes me like think of the future and stuff like that, of like just a sustainable future with fuel that like just emits hydrogen, which sounds something out of like Fallout, but it's it's, now I'm reading it, it's like true. So you were talking about how people were in opposition and there was a lot of amendments for this, right? For this bill, right? It's, my question is that sometimes when you get something passed and it has so many amendments, is just like kind of sort of not getting it passed at all because there's so much that is put onto it?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends, right? I mean, I think, amendments are part of the process, and I think that's also takes a certain measure of humility to understand when you introduce something, working on something, you don't have 100% of the answer. Yeah, sometimes it does get watered down, right? But it could lead to other bigger stuff, and I have an example of that. So back in 2017, when I was working for Autumn Burke, she authored like the legislation to have California essentially eliminate child poverty. As we went through the process, the bill did get watered down. We had a bunch of amendments. So essentially, instead of like saying that the state of California had to spend 20% of its budget on healthcare, on social services, on job training, this and that, essentially got, said, okay, no, we're just going to create like a task force and they can provide the recommendations to the legislature, right? And what was kind of unique about that was that the governor at the time hated task forces, but he signed it anyway. And so that task force met 10 times, winter of 2017 into the spring of 2018. And literally every recommendation has not only been adopted by the state of California, but it was in the infrastructure bill and in the American Rescue Plan Act that was just passed last year by President Biden in Congress. So that essentially by the end of this year in California, no child is going to be in deep child poverty at all. So I mean, it's like, but you know, it's a give and take, right? Certain bills become laws, don't have the effect you wanted to have, but sometimes it's also like a good vehicle to actually like push people to say, hey, look, this is law, you got to do X, Y, and Z, and you don't give up, right? And that's what happened. Like all this entire group and stakeholders, you know, they never gave up. Now everyone talks about ending poverty and basic universal income and all that stuff. None of that would have happened had that bill not passed and got signed into law, right? And part of it is also just politicking. Is the reason why he signed it was because Autumn led the charge in the assembly to essentially renew California's cap and trade climate change system, which is what the governor wanted. And there's a lot of story there, but essentially it was like, you know, we were able to go sit down with the governor and be like, hey, we did this for you. He was like, all right, I got you. So yeah, it all depends, you know. I mean, it's just like with anything. If you don't give up, you keep on pushing. Sooner or later, you're gonna see some results.
Thank you for that question. Given that, one last question, really pressing question anybody wants to ask? I think that's it, Chief. Thanks again for your knowledge and for stepping in and giving them feedback. We appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries. No, it's my pleasure. Sorry to miss you guys on July 1st. You come to Sacramento, but enjoy, check out the California Museum. You know, enjoy the ride up there. The lunch should be good, and stay in touch, especially for those of you, I think this fall, you know, we'll be taking some tours of some of these hydrogen plants that hopefully will come online very soon. So if we have your contact info, and if you guys are interested, just let Vanessa know. And you know, thanks to all of you for participating in this. Like I said, I wish I would have participated in this back when I was your age. But you know, don't be like me. Get good grades, go to class, don't get distracted. All right, guys, have a great weekend. Take care.
Thank you again. So now we're going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break and then regroup by 2:30 or 2:31 in this case. So you can turn off your cameras for the time being.
Angelo, did you still have a question, or you just needed to put your hand down?
Oh, I needed to put my hand. I didn't see that.
Got it.
All right, so we're still waiting on a few people.
Jennifer, so on this one, we'll open it up. I know Vanessa was gonna open it up, and then we'll ask if anybody heard, saw any of the committee discussions. I watched the one last night, so we can open it up for just conversation on that, and I can share some of what I heard last night.
All right, well, I was gonna hand it over to Luis to give a little bit, talk a lot about the submissions that we received.
Oh, are we ready? Right on. Yeah, so yeah, this is an interesting topic. I think it's one of those topics, and I'm huge, I'm a big history buff. I think it's one of those topics where in history, maybe now it's not as impactful. Maybe now it's just something that happened on January 6th. And I think we see the impacts of it, but I think further down the road, it's going to be like those 9/11, right? I think for me, that was like the moment in my kind of my adulthood. I was still in high school, but kind of that moment where it was like, I still remember what went on that day. I still remember the clothes I wore, and just kind of the feeling of walking into school, and it's just a somber feeling of like what it is, right? I think the January 6th, that day is going to live in like history. And I think it's one of those things where it's going to be, we're going to learn what the good things that happen. And it's kind of weird to say, right? Like, what good was there from this? What good can come from this? But also the bad things that happen. And I think that the committee is trying to investigate that, right? Obviously, there's a lot of wrongdoing, but it's kind of a testament of kind of the system that we work for and strive to be, to perfect, right? I think that the good things that came is that people that took an oath to do their work as elected officials, to defend the Constitution, to the Department of Justice, they took that oath, even though they might lean a little more towards a Republican side or a Democratic side. I think that was a testament to the kind of system that we have in place, right? We take an oath and we protect that oath. And that's one of the good things. And I think through these committees, we're seeing that it wasn't just all bad, right? I mean, if it was, we'd probably be in a different situation now where our election would have been like overturned. We would have been, I mean, it would set precedents for a lot of the even local elections, right? So I think in that sense, we see the goodness, but we also kind of have to see what the bad that came out of it. And I think this is what we're trying to do. And I think at this moment, like, yeah, if anyone in our team or any of you guys want to share some of your thoughts on it, we'd love to hear it. And then we did have the extra credit question. We did select 2. And I think maybe a little bit down, we'll let you, the 2 people that we chose, we won't read your statement completely, but we can let you paraphrase since they were the best ones we picked. So, I mean, right now, yeah, we'll open if Anna V wants to open up with her thoughts as an elected official, right? I think it's very important to kind of what it means as an elected official.
Yes, thank you, Luis, for that. And thank you for framing that. So I know, I'm really excited to be able to be here with you all, for you guys to be joining this. I know I had mentioned and introduced myself, on the first session as a district director. I know there's some of you that are here from Soledad, but I'm also the mayor for the city of Soledad. And this is my 2nd year as a mayor, and I was a councilwoman for the past 4 years. So as Luis said, when we come into these elected official positions, we take an oath, and we take an oath to our country, and we take an oath to defend and do what's best for our communities. And it's understanding what the dynamics are in our communities, who lives in our communities, what are some of the needs in the communities. But first and foremost, it's not about me as an elected official to gain any profit from it. It's really about, what can I offer my community where I can address some of the issues that my community is facing, and how can I bring together those solutions or those resources that are needed So, you know, as Luis said, and my viewpoint as an elected official and as a mayor for a city, you know, as a mayor for a city, it's a big obligation that that the mayors carry like a president, right? Because you're tasked with understanding your city. You're tasked with knowing what's, how to bring in those resources that your city needs and to do good, right? To do good and to leave the city in a better place than where it was when you came into office. So, you know, what January 6th is, represents for me, as Luis said, you know, I was part of 9/11 and I still remember to this day where I was. And, you know, when we first saw, you know, on TV, what was happening with those planes and how somber, as Luis said, that moment felt, how heavy and unbelievable. And I think what we saw on January 6th, we saw those that witnessed what was happening in the Capitol was the same sense of, you know, unbelievable, right? 9/11 was tragic as you saw the planes hit those twin towers, and you knew that automatically there was going to be deaths attributed to that. So that was really, you know, one of the differences with this, though, as you saw on January 6th, as things unfolded and we saw more of kind of some of that terror happening was really, you know, that's going to stay in our country's history, right? It's going to be part of a definition of not of who we are, but of a moment in time that caused this, that led to some of these sentiments that were really hard to understand. But what I saw yesterday, I was able to hear, to listen into the committee discussions yesterday. And yesterday they had various attorney generals who were talking about, there was two things that they shared their testimonials, but they were talking about two main essential things that happened. One is a portrayal of the big lie, right? And the big lie that was coming from the president to, to our country and to many people that believe this big lie that the election had been stolen, that President, now our President Biden was not, did not have the right to be our president because there was fraudulent activity that happened within our election system. And that, essentially he didn't win the election and that Donald Trump was, still wanted to continue being the president. So one was, that portrayal of the big lie and how that big lie came to be, and how many people in his cabinet, as opposed to what we've heard, is that, some of these attorney generals said, we had an oath, we took an oath in office to defend and protect this country, and what, the president's lie and wanting them to lie about the fraudulent activity that was happening was something that they knew wasn't true. And that they warned the president and said, this is not true. This is not true. You cannot continue to say this because it's not true. This is a lie. But despite them advising the president that he couldn't do this because it would be devastating, to continue the lie would be devastating to our country and devastating to the people, he continued to do that. So it was, one, as Luis said, the positive thing is that you had these individual attorney generals that really held their commitment to not a person, not a president, not a mayor, but to the country, right? The oath and our Constitution. So as you're learning as part of the session is, there's regulations, policies that rule us as a country, right? And part of that is our Constitution, and that they held their allegiance was to the Constitution, not to the president, especially not if he was doing what they felt was against the country and the Constitution. And the other one that came out of yesterday's, committee hearings was the big fraud that also happened as part of this whole big lie, right? So people that believe the president's big lie, then the president also, they're framing it to where the president also took advantage of these people that truly believe the president's lies, and that people were providing funding so that way the president can combat, these big lies, right? So one was they created a fund to be able to have people, donate money so they can fight back this fraudulent election system. And so you heard from, one of our electors today from the elections in Monterey County, right? And so our election systems, as opposed to how they were in the past, yeah, some may still have some issues, but for the most part, they're very transparent processes, right? And they're processes that have a lot of regulations, because we want to make sure that every vote is counted and that every vote that is being submitted is a legitimate vote, right? So part of what the president wanted to do was combat that and say, look, if you fund this account, then we're gonna combat this fraudulent system that didn't exist, because his own attorney generals were telling him this is not, that's not true. Our systems, we can't find any fraudulent activity within our voting systems. So I think those are the two things that I captured from yesterday's hearing was, the two things of the framework toward the end of the hearings was a big lie, and then also the fraud to the people of this country. So I'll leave it at that. I don't know if there's any questions, or I know that Luisa is gonna continue also with those that provided, that did the extra credit for this specific item. But I don't know if there's any other staff from our district staff that tuned into the committee hearings, and if there's any other thoughts.
I think at this point, like if anyone from the group of students wants to chime in, since we're just going to kind of run out of time. I mean, I think it would be good to hear from them, and just even if they didn't hear the hearings, like just on the date itself, right? And what it means to them. And I mean, just to chime in would be kind of good for them.
Go ahead, Rose.
I think one thing that was kind of like an eye opener with all of this, even if we look at like Russia and Ukraine, like we often think that our society right now has progressed past a certain point, that we can kind of have this system of, we've moved past warfare, or we've moved past, attacking our capital, and we can now go along with our own systems. And it's kind of an eye-opening thing when, things like the January 6th attack happen. And, now I think it's eye-opening because it's like, we think that we are past that, but I think it's also important to look, very important with our jargon that we use, especially people that are in power and are politicians. And I think especially with all of the bad stuff that was happening within Trump's reign, but not only that, but throughout his entire, career as a politician, he never had the best use of jargon. And I think he didn't really see like the effects of that until we obviously see like the huge effects of that, which ultimately would lead up to the January 6th attack.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's one of the things that we were listening to on the radio on my way in. It's just that oftentimes we don't think politician words matter, but this is kind of a testament to that. Yeah, I mean, someone's always listening, and then there's always someone following. What politicians say does matter. And this is kind of a manifestation of that.
I want to ask if, Angelo has his hand up, but also if you guys want to comment, if anybody has any comments on the role that social media played, right? Because I think it was really critical that we didn't have, obviously we didn't see this before, but with social media, I mean, some of the critical moments when the president could have stopped some of the mob, social media tweets came out that were very damaging.
If I could say some, I was going to talk about social media, but actually in a different way. When I saw January 6th, see, I like to think of myself as like knowledgeable in politics, but at the same time, I come from a different view of politics. Just in the way that it's presented to me. I don't like the news wasn't something I used to watch. I used to really get it from the internet and kind of from obscure places from people with different viewpoints. It wasn't good, but I saw a lot of the kind of hatred, the kind of spiel, just the way people used to manage themselves in January 6th, all the references to 4chan stuff, all the ways that people really treated it as a joke, and which manifested itself into a bigger issue, which then led to attack on the Capitol. And when people were outraged about this, to me, it was very. I was like, I sort of expected something like this. Like I expected like something that grew on social media, on these platforms where these people with crazy ideas get to talk, where they get to go on poll, or they get to go on like Reddit or stuff like that and convene on like their ideas about just like fantasies basically. And I feel like politicians didn't pay attention to that. I feel they pay attention. Well, like the older generation of the older generation of politicians, that they didn't really focus on the radical thinking of with social media, and especially with the net neutrality stuff. It kind of shows you how sort of behind a lot of the infrastructure is when it's dealing with stuff about internet. And I just wanted to bring that up because it was just so weird for me to see all that and know it.
Absolutely. No, thank you for sharing that with us. And I think that's kind of where people need to get involved. I think a lot of politicians will do that, where they make politics unattractive to people. They want you to hate politics or whatever it is, so that the less we're involved, the less decisions we have over some of those things. So I think that's kind of how the elections office was mentioning, right? I mean, it starts with our schools, school boards, starts with our county supervisors. It's getting involved in that, and then that's where we make impacts. But just being involved is really kind of the answer, you know.
Just really quickly, if anybody's interested, if you guys have, most of you, I don't know if you're still on Instagram, but if you have Instagram, there's a Sharon McMahon. She's a history teacher, and she is nonpartisan. She goes over, she watches the committee hearings in real time and gets really succinct kind of points of what's happening. So if anybody's interested, she saves all of that. She's excellent. So if anybody's interested in kind of getting a recap, Sharon Sesso on Instagram.
Thank you, Jennifer. And I think now Vanessa will introduce the two winners, and then they can kind of give us an overview of what they wrote. Is that good timing now, Vanessa? All right. So the first one, I think we already heard from her, was Rose V. If you just kind of go over what you said in your statement about the hearings, and then I think Vanessa will be in touch with you after this.
All right, so I basically kind of talked about what our other Ms. Velasquez in the group discussed. I kind of just went over, I did watch yesterday's hearing, Thursdays, and basically what I got from it was that there was a lot of kind of secrecy and stuff, and that essentially the president had basically asked, his attorney general to convince like other legislators to overturn their votes and stuff like that. And, his attorney general basically said, I don't see any reason as to why we have to do that. I don't think there's any fraudulency going on. There's no proof of that. And so then he tried to hire a new attorney general, and that he was even getting the title of acting attorney general, during that time. And there's a lot of like unknowns about how that happened in the process. And then there was also things about how his attorney kind of wrote letters to different legislators and kind of did things like that. And so that's kind of what I got from it, was that he was just kind of, I guess, pushing his narrative along, even though there was no actual evidence of any fraudulency in the election. So.
Thank you. And then our second one was, let me see her name, Donna Cervantes. And I think the reason I chose this one was because she was very honest about some parts being really boring. And I think that's kind of how politics are. You know, sometimes we got to stick to through those boring parts and kind of just make some headway and sit through them. And then that's kind of where the good stuff is, you know. But yeah, Donna, go ahead and share with us.
So basically what I wrote in mine was basically my beliefs of why the whole thing happened, why the hearing occurred, especially why they picked those specific people, especially for Boyer since it's like closed. I believe the reason why they did the hearing was to see what could have led for the invasion of the Capitol to happen. So by bringing out House of Representatives and for them to speak out their experiences with Trump and see what will the invasion to happen, especially in the outcome of statements that Trump made. For example, Boyer got asked a statement and had to proclaim whether it was right or wrong, and Boyer declining and saying that it was false, the statement made by Trump, can show how relationships with Trump's could be strained now because of the lies, and how I remember how the lies that Trump have been saying to the public has caused a lot of people's who work in politics lives to be in harm. I stated in my paragraph that a politician's house got raided with Trump supporters because of the false counts, because of the fraudulence, and how his phone would be blowing up with messages and everything, and that he got doxxed online. And also, and besides that, through Trump's decisions, because of January 6th, it shows how a lot of Trump's statements and words really affect the public people, and how a single person can make a huge change in history, like done with Trump, and how it affects the lives of ordinary people. And yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Again, Vanessa will reach out to you. I don't know, Vanessa, do you want to take over? I think we're about ready to get close down.
I can take it from here, Luis. So congratulations to the winners. And again, thank you for everyone that submitted your evaluation, your forms, and then those that did the bonus questions. And I just want to say to everybody again, thank you for joining our program. I hope you were able to capture something that you learned new, that was new to you, and be able to learn something that you can carry on into the future. So we hope, again, the program is titled Young Legislators Program. We know that not everybody might be interested in politics or in government in the future, but we hope that you were inspired in some way by listening to all the great guest speakers that we had, our staff, and then what you learned, what we covered in this program. So we hope, again, if you are interested in the future, feel free to reach out to us for either letters of support. I know a lot of you will be applying for college in the future. If you want to get involved, whether it's internships, we've had that in the past, so feel free to reach out to our office. And, again, if you want to get involved, whether it's you learn how a bill is passed, and all it takes is an idea. So you don't have to be an adult to come to our office and say, hey, I have an idea and I think it's important. It's, again, having that research and knowing why that law doesn't exist, but maybe a law would make a difference in the state of California. So again, thank you. And then now I just want to kind of go over the Capitol trip. As mentioned in the beginning of the program, for those of you who participate in the program and join all of our sessions, with the exception of those of you who emailed me for a reason that you couldn't attend, I already talked to you and we had a conversation of why you couldn't attend that session. You were still eligible for the Capitol trip. So for the Capitol trip, it'll be on next Friday, July 1st, and we will be having transportation offered to you. We have transportation. The first pickup will be from the Salinas office, So those of you who live in the Salinas Valley, Monterey, and San Benito County, we will have our pickup location in Salinas, which is 132 West Gavilan Street. And I kind of want to open it up in case anybody thinks that you might have issues getting a ride to our Salinas office. Please let me know by today. Please either send me an email before the end of the day or give me a call. We want to make sure that if we can accommodate you to try and get you over here, we can try. But again, we will be providing transportation from Salinas to Sacramento and then back. So the way we will be, pickup will be at 7 a.m. from Salinas, and then we will be coming back by 5 p.m. So being here in Salinas by 5 p.m. Same goes to Merced. We'll have a pickup location in our Merced office, and pickup there will be 8 a.m. And we hope to be in Merced no later than about 4 or 5, depending on traffic. And what will happen in the Capitol trip, we'll start off by visiting the Sacramento State Capitol, which is a building, where the senator has her hearings and all the legislators get together to pass bills. And so we'll do a tour of that for about 45 minutes. And then at 11, we'll move on and we'll visit the California Museum, which will learn a lot of history about California. So it'll be a self-guided tour, but we will have a tour representative from the California Museum that can answer all of our questions. And then following the tour, which will be about a 90-minute tour, we will have lunch provided to you. And then once we're done with lunch, we'll be driving back home. So again, is there any questions about the traveling? So I know that we will have some students from other cities that are on the way up north, for example, Hollister. And so we were planning on having a stop in Casa de Fruta. Same for Merced. If there's any students that live in, on the way up to Merced, we can consider having a stop on the way up to Sacramento. So is there anybody that wants to kind of open up and maybe has concerns about transportation? Unmute yourself, please. Any questions? This is a good time to ask any questions that you have.
At least,
There's
Vanessa,
a question on the chat.
Yeah.
By Rose. She's asking, is there anything we should bring?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I was going to get into that as well. Sacramento, the weather is approximately in between 80s, sometimes 90s. So it will be a warmer weather. Make sure you bring something comfortable. You can either bring jeans, make sure they're not ripped jeans, just appropriate jeans. You can bring shorts, again, make sure they're appropriate, good length. And we will be providing t-shirts. So you can wear maybe like a tank top is fine, or any type of t-shirt underneath. That way, when we're going to bring the t-shirts with us. And we'll have the office open so that way you can change in our offices. Or you can just put in the, kind of, again, bring something underneath, that way you can put the shirt over. So that would be the ideal.
Yeah, and can I just jump in really quick, Vanessa? So in terms of the Capitol trip, as Vanessa said, because we are going as representatives of the senator, and you're part of the representation of the senator as well as as part of the Young Legislators program. So just in terms of attire, it's gonna be hot. So feel free to wear shorts, but just for the men or for the young men, just not any of the sports shorts. But if you can bring some of the cargo shorts or just some of the other type of shorts would work well. And just, think about just looking professional, right? We want to make sure that we represent the senator well. So our professional attire could, doesn't need to be fancy, but something you're comfortable in as well and looks professional.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. So again, pickup will be for Merced will be at 8 a.m. and Salinas will be 7 a.m. So I'll be sending out the agenda in an email shortly after by today with all the details that we're discussing today. And so additionally, we will need a permission slip signed by either a guardian or a parent to be submitted to me by by Tuesday of next week. So I will also include that in the email today. So please make sure you get that signed in order to be able to travel with us. It's a liability waiver, just giving us, acknowledging that you'll be traveling with us to Sacramento with, the Senator's Young Legislators program. And then in addition, for lunch, as mentioned, we will be providing lunch, and we will also be providing, water and some snacks on the way over there in the morning. So if anybody has any food allergies, I know I've heard it from some of you already, but if you do, please let me know by the end of the day today. That way we can make sure we're cautious of any food allergies. And then in addition to that, any accommodations that you may need, please also send me an email so that way we can consider that as well. Yeah, go ahead, Anna.
Oh, Vanessa, I know it's 3 o'clock, so I'll log on for the other meeting with the senator, but just the COVID testing as well, and we'll be providing information to them on where they can go get a free COVID test.
Yeah, so I know it's your call, so I'll try to wrap it up. So a requirement that we were told for this program is that we will need a COVID test from a day prior. So there is different testing sites in your area. We will be able to provide resources of where you can get tested for free. There's a lot of walk-ins. Some of them do require an appointment, so you would need to make an appointment prior. So again, we will require a negative COVID test in order to travel for the capital trip. And in addition, we will, for the California Museum, some of the protocols is they do require a mask. So if you have a mask, please bring one. If not, we will also provide those for you.
Yeah. So Vanessa, on that, so we're gonna get masks for the Merced office and the Salinas office. So in case you don't have it, we'll have them on the bus as well.
Yeah, thank you. And then someone asked, are COVID tests fine? Yeah, so if you have an at-home kit, we will ask that you do send us a picture of a negative test with your name on it. That way you know that we have proof that you tested negative. And if you test at a testing site, please get proof that you tested negative and send that to me as well as soon as you get tested, as soon as you get your results, which would be the day prior to the trip. And so again, if you don't know where you can get tested, I will be sending out a list of areas in your counties that you can take a look at. And if you have any trouble finding a testing location, please let me know and we can work with you to try and find you a location as soon as possible.